Hello everyone and welcome to my 7 Days to Die Miro sheet. So basically, I've been thinking a lot about 7 Days to Die lately. I've been playing the game almost nonstop since 2.0 came out. I've been playing overhaul mods. I've been talking with people and engaging on Reddit. And basically, I have a lot of thoughts on it right now. So I'm going to break this down into a couple different areas. The core concepts of the game, the gameplay loops, problems and good things about the gameplay loops, and some of the changes that could be made would do for the gameplay styles. So first off, I'm going to really move in on the core concepts. The core concepts are actually pretty simple. Sorry about that. 7 Days to Die has danger and survival. These are two separate meters, right? Danger and survival. As one goes up, the other goes down. So, survival is governed by scarcity. Scarcity is scarcity of gear, building materials, medicine, food, water, and transport. As you get more of these things, you can deal with danger better, so wildlife, zombies, environment, and traps. As an example, having transport makes storms in the environment generally less dangerous. You can ignore zombies and wildlife, and you can even buzz through traps. So that's a very simple concept. Right now, I feel like the problem with the game is that they are mainly using danger as the increase in difficulty while ignoring scarcity. Personally, right now, by day 2 or 3, I will have all the water and food I need in current versions of the game, and so what I want to see is I want to see more scarcity. However, scarcity is a fun little thing where it's kind of subjective. Some people want an arcadey, loot everything they need and pew 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 through the poise while doing quest. Other people like me want to struggle to survive for at least the first 7 days. So obviously, like resources being rebalanced maybe with a slider, and that slider's for food, water, ammo, meds, all that stuff. Maybe in the style of Space Engineers, where like every time you swing your axe, you can get 2x the amount of base, or maybe you get 50%, and it's up to the player or difficulty presets to decide that. So a key aspect of keeping gameplay fresh is random maps which add variability to challenge. So that's going to be explored more, but in general, you can as long as you're not playing the base game map, you will always have issues with survival because you have to explore and you have to experience scarcity. You're never going to know exactly where to go. And then, of course, we'll get to Blood Moons earlier, but right now I'm just going to say they're kind of a do or die, but there is good things about them. We'll get to that later, though. So these are the core concepts, and now we're going to explore the gameplay loops. So the gameplay loops all use the core concepts to varying levels. So there's three styles of gameplay loops: the quester, the base builder, and the nomad. The quester has two main problems: transport and zombies. You need to be transported to where your quest is, and you need to deal with the zombies at the location. Now, I'm going to get into the solution for zombies later because this is kind of a problem for all three of them, but I'll say two things for the Quester. Right now, I feel like it's too easy in comparison to the other styles. The Quester is well balanced with all its needs met, scaling difficulty, and reason to explore. It is a complete style all on its own. You do everything the game has to offer with the Quester, and that's a good thing. Now, I don't necessarily think the quests need to be worse. Like I've played mods where they reduced the amount of resources you got from questing, and in fact, the goal was to make it not always worth it to do quest. And I've also played a base game where questing basically takes care of absolutely everything. I don't so much think questing needs to get harder or easier, but I do think the other two need to be improved in comparison to questers. So let's move into the base builder to really explore that. The base builder's main problems are food, water, and meds. The general idea is they're going to be in their base most of the time, so they're not going out there to get water, meds, and food either from the quester or from a random poi loot. They need a lot of building materials. They're not being given to them, they can't buy them, they need to harvest them. And of course, zombies. So the problems with the base builder is there's little reason to leave an area except loot cap. So we'll get into the solution to that. I just want to bring that up for a moment. And there is no clear path for progressing unless you want to go out and do the usual stuff. You need magazines. You need to be able to get those to advance in crafting. And like the quester could theoretically never loot a magazine and still buy them from the merchant. The nomad is out there killing stuff all the time and looting the magazines. So right now the main problem for the base builder is there is no clear path for progression. Next up is the Nomad. So their main issues are scarcity and zombies. They're not doing quests. Well, they could be doing quests. There's hybrids, but we're just talking about the pure strain right now. The idea is they never build a base and they never go questing. They just want to explore. They just want to kill things. They just want to be a hobo, a murder hobo to be specific. So they're going to have more scarcity. They can only have what they can take with them, and of course, zombies are going to be an issue. So just like before, they have little reason to leave an area except loot cap. They have no clear path for progressing crafting, and they have no access to vehicles or crafting stations. Now, there's a whole bunch of ways we can fix all these problems, and I'm going to get into a few of them, starting from the Nomad, because we were just talking about them. Bring back random working stations, vehicle loot, all of that stuff. So the idea is around A19 or maybe a little before that, you used to be able to find the crafting stations out in the world. So for a Nomad, as they're exploring, maybe they just happen upon a workstation, or they happen upon a forge, or they happen upon a dew collector, and they mark it on their map, and that becomes part of their little circle. They want to come back to this location occasionally. They're a nomad, but they of course can revisit areas. They can also, maybe they find that workstation and they can finally craft some ammo from all the gunpowder they've been hoarding. Or maybe they randomly find a bike and suddenly their nomading gets even better. Um, Honestly, I would love to be able to just randomly loot a bike or find a vehicle. Very low chance, mind you, very low chance, and maybe a slider increases or decreases that. But just having happy loot surprises needs to be a thing. In general, I think loot's a real problem. It's not logical and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I want to just explore a few more concepts. Bringing back learn by doing. So we're not getting rid of magazines. We're just bringing learn by doing back. These two systems coexist perfectly. When you want to be a base builder and never leave your base, you just brute force crafting or brute force building, and you slowly get XP towards those crafting items, and you can eventually craft better items without ever having looted a single magazine. And if you don't want to do that, if you never want to do that, don't engage with it. Just find magazines. They're still there. They're still the same. There's no reason for these two systems to not be there at the same time. And then finally, well, there's gonna be two more, but a heat rework to allow gameplay style divorced from areas. Right now, the only way to increase difficulty is to go to another area or to find a higher tier point in that area, and I think that's ridiculous. I think everything should be increasing difficulty. I think if you build a forge in your base, that like plus 50 heat to the whole area, the whole forest just got more dangerous because you're at the next level. Now, some people don't like that Skyrim style, and I think there's an easy answer: just have a flip either heats on or heats off, and that's fine. But anyways, the general idea is the longer you live in an area, the better your gear, the more player-built structures are in the area, the more dangerous the area gets. And I would really love to see that. It also kind of cuts down on the exploit of having a separate horde base, because if you have two bases in an area, that area just got even more dangerous. But anyways, heat as a system that grows and changes with you. There's still a base level, like forest is still 1, burnt forest is 0.5, but if you spend more time in the forest, eventually it'll be 2. And I think that's fine because, like, sometimes you just like the aesthetic of an area. I like the snow area and I would like to spend more time in it, and that would be perfect. Um, all right, so and then the final part of this recipe is making zombies dangerous with common sense, armor, darkness, and speed. I'm not going to get too much into that, but just variable speed for zombies, darkness actually being dark, and random armor, because I've been playing the Tarkov mod a lot, and let me tell you, having armored zombies where you have to just like the answer isn't always 100% headshots. Sometimes you need to shoot a zombie in the knee because they're wearing a welding helmet, as an example. And I think that's just a super great way to make zombies more dangerous without necessarily changing the danger level. It's just changing how you deal with them and how you prioritize them and what you can do. As an example, right now in the forest, when I spawn in, as soon as I get a bone knife or a stone spear, I'm pretty good to do pretty much any poi there, except for the very hardest ones. It just is a little tedious because it takes a lot of stabbing with either of those things to bring down higher tier of zombies. But as an example, if I ran into a zombie with chainmail and suddenly my spear and my knife were almost worthless, I might have to retreat and just leave that area. And I think that's a really good thing that needs to be in this game, honestly. Like Tarkov did it, it's definitely possible. Modders did it, so yeah. So the problems: zombies. Basic zombies aren't threatening. We can fix that with the armor, darkness, and speed changes. Just having situations where you need to prioritize certain zombies. Some zombies are going to be harder to deal with certain weapons, and generally that leads us into the next point. Outside of Blood Moon's high-level poison and rare hordes, they are too few. Now, there's two ways to handle this. Make zombies dangerous with resource scarcity, so a smaller number of zombies become a problem, or make zombies dangerous with nimbers, but this is limited based on system power. Now, obviously, like this game has been out for a long time, and there are sliders that do change how many zombies are spawning and how many zombies are in an area. However, in general, I think zombies just need to be increased. Like this game's been out for a long time, the base settings are not enough. Um, Finally, magic zombies are silly. So this one's subjective. I put it in yellow because it's more of an opinion, but I've seen this opinion a lot. And once again, it just comes back to special zombie variants that make sense, like armored. We don't need magic zombies. We can have armored zombies where suddenly not shooting it in the head is the right choice, or maybe the zombie with armor is a little slower, so we prioritize the unarmored basic zombie. Then the armored basic zombie is dealt with afterwards, and it just adds these little dynamic gameplay changes to it that I think would be really powerful. I'm going to go to resource next. Scarcity is highly subjective. We've already covered this. We want sliders for basically everything, probably done in the Space Engineer style. That would be amazing. Resources blocked by tech. Resources requires tech blocked by magazines. Once again, learn by doing. Take care of all of that. We control how fast we want to advance or how slow we want to advance. Perfect right there. So progression. Progression's arbitrarily controlled with loot caps. No one really likes it. Make loot logical, but control it with scarcity. You know what? Maybe you should be able to loot an M60 with a like 0.01% chance. Maybe you should be able to loot a bike. Maybe all of this stuff could make that playthrough special. Maybe you looted maybe you looted the AK, so now you're doing machine guns instead of your usual knife and pistol build. I think that's something that like loot in general needs to be logical. I've been playing Tarkov a lot, and they have sensible loot tables. If you loot a cop car, you're going to find guns and ammo. If you loot an ambulance, you're going to find medical supplies. If you loot a gun bag, there might actually be a gun in there, for an example. You're not going to find stone axes in factory sealed containers. Loot needs to make sense, and it needs to be controlled with scarcity, but you should be able to find amazing things that completely change your gameplay or change the save or make or break your group. That's something that needs to be in this game. It adds variability, replayability, and it makes progression more fun. Progression is arbitrarily controlled with magazines. We've already talked about that. You can learn by doing. You can loot. You can do magazines. It's all fine. An area is a static level of danger which discourages staying in an area. As we've already discussed, rework heat to increase difficulty in an area, the entire area. Loot caps slash quests are the only reason to go to another area outside of quest. Well, add special resources and more access to specific resources in each area. We already know the desert has more gas in it, but maybe other areas can have something like maybe the forest is just the best place to get wood. Maybe you can actually loot steel a lot in the wasteland as an example. Like give people a reason to go here or there. Progression is a line that remains the same, and this is a really big problem for me, especially because I've been playing the game a lot. Bring back random traders. Why should we run into wrecked every single time? Maybe running into Jin and having a glut of healing supplies is what makes that specific save special. Maybe spawning into the desert and having problems with water, but having all the fuel I want makes that save special. And alternative tech plans would be amazing. Maybe if you're in the forest, you're gonna be focused on wood. Maybe lots of spikes. Maybe tripwires, maybe the log traps that used to be in the game are brought back, and that's a whole tech path, and it can handle almost anything in the forest, but it's almost entirely based on wood, which is all around you. Or maybe you just go out and you make expeditions out and you bring your steel back to the forest. It doesn't really matter. Just give people ways to engage with the game differently, which is kind of the whole point of the different styles. Maybe you want to be a nomad today and you maybe you want to be a base builder with wooden tech. I don't know. It's a lot of different options, and I think they all need to be in the game to add replayability and fun for everyone. So difficulty, currently, difficulty is largely controlled by zombie numbers. Like if you're in the new poise, which have thousands of zombies running at you, that's their difficulty, and it's honestly more of an ammo check than anything. Player-controlled scarcity, we've already discussed that. That handles that. Night isn't scary. Make night darker or have a setting for that. Like going through a poi. In the Tarkov mod, I went through a poi with just a flashlight and an actually dark night. Holy crap! Does it make this game so much more atmospheric, so much scarier, so much more fun? But some people don't like that, so have a setting for it. The right loot invalidates zombies. The heat rework takes care of that. If you get a really good gun right off the bat, the heat ramps up and the danger gets harder to. Storms are time wasters. Well, good news. Storms have good and bad effects as well as effects on zombies. So if you're familiar with Joe Woodle's channel, he's already released a mod that does some of this. You know, 2.3 changes are coming, but I would like to see a like if there's a rainstorm, your dew collector just fills up way faster. So maybe you're happy to see a rainstorm, even if it makes the zombies. Maybe lightning attracts zombies. So maybe even though you're having to deal with random bursts of zombies, during the rainstorm, you needed water and you're happy about that. Maybe you're specifically even collecting water during a rainstorm because you live in the desert and water's the rare resource in that area. I'd like to also take a moment to talk about the good things in this game because I don't want to just be negative. I want to also be positive. Toy design is amazing. New toys are better. Like they're getting better about not putting zombies in every closet because I remember back when a couple of versions ago, every single time you opened an armoire, there was a zombie in it. They're getting better with toy design. There's more toys. There's more variety. There's more ideas, and I like that. Also, random world generation is getting so much better. You're not seeing those weird little U's into the sky with the road that used to pop up way back when. There's more interesting stuff in the world. Toys are obviously making random world gen better. If they would just make traders of random again, and if or have the option to have random traders, that would be amazing. Like world gen would almost be perfect at that point. I'm sure there's things they could improve. Like I've seen caves as an option. Graphics, they've been gotten better. In fact, if you've been on Reddit, you probably saw that way back Kickstarter version of the game that looked nothing like it does nowadays. Modability, obviously that's amazing. Like the overhaul mods are crazy. In fact, some people have criticized the devs because of how much the modders have done, but credit to the devs, they've made the modability possible. Blood moons are excellent fun in certain situations, and by certain situations, for me, I personally mean they're really fun when you're when you're in a group and you're having crazy stuff and the people are fun and bad stuff is happening and you can't control everything. But for some people, like they're off being base builders who are playing tower defense. Settings allow a lot of customization. We've kind of covered that. Like I've got to give them credit; they do have a lot of customization. I just think they could have even more. So how did all of these changes, if we made these changes in the problems area, change things? So first off, styles. All styles, happy loot surprises are a big thing now. I think they could be gameplay changing. Sometimes they don't happen, sometimes they do happen. Questers, they basically remain unchanged. They're fine. Maybe it's harder or easier depending on your what sliders you played with or what setting you're on, but that's fine. I guess they're gonna add a story, and I guess that's fine. And I'm gonna assume the questers are gonna have something to do with that story, and that's their choice. I don't care. I'm probably never I'll do it once and then I'll never engage in it again because, Skyrim, Oblivion, Fallout, that's how you do it. So base builders, what's changed for base builder? A base builder can now progress freely because they can brute force with the learn by doing. A base builder will have increased difficulty as their base grows, but will suffer setbacks if overwhelmed. That's perfectly fine. I think that needs to be in the game. A base builder will need to make expeditions to other areas if they want to explore the mainline tech path or explore alternate tech paths to remain fully self-sufficient. One of those two options. If you want to stay there forever, maybe you're going to be using wooden log traps and really clever stuff with spikes. I don't know. Maybe maybe you made that expedition to the wasteland to get steel for turrets. I don't know. Like it's up to you. The Nomad. So their Nomad gameplay cycle largely focuses on exploration for easy sources of required progression material, pretty much the same as it is now. Um, Nomad's main enemy is going to be scarcity of supplies. Once again, they can make that easier or harder. Unlike other styles, a nomad might avoid conflict when risk looks bad. So if the reward isn't worth the risk, they just go away and do something else. That's something they can do. Whereas the base builder, they can't just abandon their base, and the quester needs to complete the quest. I mean, technically they can abandon the quest, but that's time wasted, and that's a whole thing. And a nomad can now progress freely. They can find those crafting tables in the world. They can find resource sources, and they can just like go about their nomad heart as they go. Also, the base builder, maybe they found one of those random ploys that had a forge and a work table right off the bat. It's now taking that over, like obviously it would automatically increase their heat a lot, but that's their choice. That's their game. That's making their game unique. The general gist of this is I think the game is going in the right direction, honestly. I think 2.3 was a step in the right direction. I just think there's so much more they can do. And a lot of that is, one, putting the systems and customs in the hands of the players with sliders, and two, making sure that they're catering to all of the gameplay styles, not one. Questers are eaten good. Everything they could want is given to them, and if anything, their only problem is being too easy. Whereas base builders basically can't just stay in their base, and nomads can't have to engage with age and a whole like they have to bend over backwards, or they're just not going to get good loot, as an example. Whereas with these simple changes, we could have all the players being fed well. They have all the content they want. There's more originality. Like as an example, maybe one gameplay you do like super long nights or super dark, and there's very little time in the day, and and maybe water and food's really common, so you're spending your night basically surviving, and then you have a little breather. Like it's all subjective. We want every player to be able to do what they want with the game because I want to really focus on this. It is an open world game. and yet over the past few patches, it's gotten smaller and smaller. They forced, like, they got rid of stealth entirely. There's almost no way to do a stealth build because of the way triggers work. There's now magic silly zombies to make the zombie hordes more dangerous in the high tier, but like honestly, how often do you get to the high tier? I get bored well before I get to high tier often because there's not enough differences. Every game goes the same. I spawn into the forest, I do quest with Rect, I eventually go to the next few biomes. At some point I'll be able to craft something depending on if I got the magazines for it, and at some point I will have a glut of resources and I just kind of wonder why I'm playing because I'm smashing through too easy poise because the game isn't hard for me anymore and I don't like the ways that it's harder. I don't like more zombie health. I also, as a side note, I should have put this in here, but structural engineer zombies as they get mocked on Reddit a lot, that needs to go away, honestly. Maybe like there can be a couple AI sets, like maybe I should probably have put that in here somewhere now that I see it. But anyways, we'll just make a quick note. So AI sets, dumb zombies, smart zombies, anti-base zombies. Like, there's no end to what the different styles of AI could be. I personally probably set it to smart zombies as an example. So they aren't structural engineers. They don't do a lot of damage to the structures, but they know how to get into them. If they find a way in, they're going to go for it. They're going to track your noise. They're going to do all that. Dumb zombies just run in a horde at a direction. That's fine too. Anti-base zombies, those guys are the structural engineers. They do a lot of damage and nothing stands in their way. You're just temporarily blocking them. We'll just put that into difficulty. But yeah, that's also something that needs to be done. Um, so the goal for this video really was threefold, and I kind of want to discuss that as well. I love 7 Days to Die. I want 7 Days to Die to be better, and I think this is a way to make it better for everyone. Most of the changes are going to be controlled by settings and sliders, and if you don't change any of those, the game remains completely the same. And that's good for the people who like the game right now. People who like the game where they could just stay in their bases, they now get that catered to them too. Everyone gets everything essentially, and that's what I think is the power of sliders and settings. We need to cater to as many gameplays as possible. We need to make it possible for people to do multiple different things. Every playthrough needs to have something special about it, something memorable about it. Maybe that playthrough you got the M60. Maybe that playthrough you didn't get anything good, so you had to eke through the learn by doing. Maybe that playthrough you found on the 4x4 truck right off the bat, and you immediately started to go nomad, but with a ton of storage. So you basically had a mobile factory with you. We just need more options in this game. We need the game to be fun, and we need the game to be fun for everyone. And I think a fairly few number of simple changes, because the biggest ones right now is the heat rework. That's the biggest thing, and then I think followed by that, it would probably be the loot rework to make it more logical. Not sure how much work that would actually be. I know mods do it though. And then everything else is just either bringing something that used to exist back and having it coexist with the system. As a programmer, I realize that's not always as easy as it seems, but as a general rule, you do have a blueprint to that. So I'm putting that as a tier under adding in a heat rework. And then everything else is just adding sliders to things that already exist in the game. And you already have sliders, so you can't tell me it's not done. Um, and then we're going to hit a final note. I want to talk about DLC. For those of you wondering, yes, I did just pause my stream and write all of these because I kind of hit on a new idea and I wanted to explore it. But anyways, DLCs and updates. A full release game shouldn't break saves. It happens, but it shouldn't happen often. Like they've gone from 2 to 2.1 to 2.2 to 2.3, and I'm sure they've ruined at least a couple dozen saves, probably hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know. But anyways, a lot of games break saves. It's a thing that happens, but it shouldn't happen often. I would personally prefer to see really big updates occasionally and give people time to actually get to the old end game. I don't think I would have ever gotten to the outside of the first few times I played this game. I don't think I've ever gotten to the wasteland without having a save annihilated, as an example. The core concept shouldn't change in a full release game. Why Yetis now, as an example? Why did we suddenly get ninja zombies? I'm not going to stop calling them ninja zombies. By the way, I had someone on Reddit get annoyed by that. But anyways, ninja zombies. They're Naruto ninja zombies. They turn invisible until you get close, and they spit bees rather. Sorry, and those bees infect you with something. I don't know what it is, but yeah. the core concept shouldn't change in a full release game. Now, when we were buying in the beta, we had the understanding that things would change, but this is a full release game now. That shouldn't happen. Like if I like it, like as an example, if they had the old weather system in with heat and cold and they removed it now, that would be a very bad decision. It would be removing something that you were promised as part of the full game's release, and that's not a good thing at all. Also, like they are backtracking on the Yetis in 2.3, so they seem to be fixing their direction, and I hope they understand that. Like the core concept shouldn't change. You release this game, this should remain the same general game forever. Adding stuff to the game, that's fine. Making new stuff happen, that's fine, but the core game should remain the change, or should remain unchanged rather. DLC should add new things to the game or be fully cosmetic. So this is kind of going back to the big updates thing. So personally, my DLC philosophy is 2 points. As an example, I've added in the vehicles DLC as an example. In the vehicles DLC, you get it adds new skins to each of the existing vehicles. So, for example, we would go with a Mad Max theme on the vehicles. So suddenly, like they look vaguely like Mad Max. Obviously, that's a copyright thing, but I'm sure they could file off the name and come up with something as an example. So that's one DLC. I personally wouldn't buy it, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who would buy the Mad Max DLC. And you could even have fantasy DLCs because this is optional content. If you don't want to interact with it, you never have to touch it. So having the Tron DLC might seem silly and out of place, but if someone actually wanted to buy that, go ahead, more power to them. Or they could go with a vehicle pack that adds new stuff to the game. As an example, I've added the super in-game tank. So that would be the final. That would be like the final level of vehicle, the new final level. It invalidates things, but once again, this is DLC. You don't have to have it if you don't want. And two, it's pretty cool idea. Maybe, in fact, you act as an example, there's a couple different things. Like maybe we add in the motorcycle with side carriage. Or we add in the Jeep, which is like the 4x4, but it's a more all-terrain and can finally go through the wasteland without braking. And then the tank, as an example. Like DLC needs to make sense. It needs to be either A, cosmetic and purely for people who care about those things, or B, it needs to affect the game in ways that are reasonable. It shouldn't just be like outfits that probably should have just been part of the 2.0 release anyways. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to address DLC and updates really quickly because that's just not how, like, that's just, it's such a low bar as an example. DLC is such a low bar right now, and it's hard not to meet it. Like, all they had, like, if they really needed money, and I totally understand needing money, just adding in a vehicle skin pack was such a low bar to meet, and they didn't do that. Instead, they added in the weird armor stuff instead, and on a 2.0 release that was not well received. Um, so yeah, as a general idea of this video, I want people to discuss things, and this is just me throwing out my personal thoughts. I really encourage anyone who's gotten this far. I want you to make your own videos. I want you to make your own post. I want you to post on Reddit. I want you to think about how the game could be better for you, and I want you to think about it in depth. I don't. It doesn't necessarily need to be this in depth. I'm a systems like I've been working on systems and enterprise level software for a while, so this is just kind of how I think. Like it doesn't need to be this crazy. It can just be a bullet pointed list on Reddit as an example. But we need every single person who loves this game to put their ideas out there. We need ideas everywhere. We need what's good and what's bad. We need a whole depth of opinion because the worst thing that can happen is a minority controls the majority. And this is something that's kind of happening. The devs completely shut out all feedback and they kind of went in a direction people didn't like until the reviews really bombed, and now suddenly they're listening again. But minority controlling the majority. As another example, in a game that has PvP and PvE, if the or PvP players are the minorities being heard and there's changes that affect PvE, the PvP players aren't going to be happy about that. As a side note, I also left things like NPCs off of here intentionally. I don't personally care about NPCs. I'm playing my zombie survival game. If there's NPCs, I would love a toggle to turn them off in case I hate them, or maybe I love them and I'd never use that. But yeah, there's things they're doing that are like quests and NPCs that I personally don't care about, so I left them off of this. But if you have opinions on that, you should probably throw that out there too. Here's a good opinion that's not on here. Hire some mod makers. Those guys are doing some really good work. And honestly, just steal their ideas even. Like, don't be bad about it, but like, some of the thing, at least some of the things they're doing need to be incorporated in the game. Don't avoid them just because a modder's doing them, as an example. But yeah, um, I just really love this game and I want it to be better. I want it to continue to be good and I want it to get better in the future. And I encourage everyone to do your part. To go out there, leave reviews, make posts, make videos. Try don't harass the devs though. Don't do that. That's bad. Don't ever harass the devs. I just want to also throw that in there because you know how people are. We're kind of hitting the 30-minute mark, and I didn't know if this was going to go for an hour or 30 minutes, but like I think I got everything into 20 minutes or so, and then I just kind of had the extra DLC stuff in the last 30. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Please do let me know what you think personally in the comments. Seriously, I would love to hear what other people think. The changes, like the changes you want, the things you want removed, the things you want added, all that stuff. I love that. So please do. Anyways, see you on the next one. Bye.